So, someone left a comment on my mid-Sodor video asking me to do a video surrounding Percy, who I somewhat started getting a basis for months ago, and Old Shape Henry. So today we'll be covering them and another engine, so let's begin. Now before we get to the details, let's cover Henry's original history. He was the prototype design for the Grizzly A1, whose plans were stolen by a spy who worked for someone who had a grudge against Grizzly, and found out it was a poor runner once it was built, so they sold Henry off as an Atlantic. Now Henry shares many similar details to Gordon. In fact, in the Railway series illustrations he is practically identical, save for the livery and steam pipes. So he has that round-topped firebox with the slope, a sloped running board, and is officially a 462. The 462 is an illustration error that was carried over into the TV series. Henry is also built by 1919 officially, but considering he technically has a basis and we're changing it here, I guess it doesn't really matter that much. Just so long as he's built by 1922, as that is when his first story happens. Now I won't cover a bunch of engines here like I usually do. The reason why is because I'll be basically just doing a repeat of the red engine from the loaned engines basis video, which you can go and watch after this. So instead I'll just cover the three most likely engines. First off is the H2 Atlantic, built in 1911. Obviously it can't be this due to it being a 442 and the cab shape being wrong, but Audrey did originally want Henry to be an Atlantic. It was only because Middleton and Payne drew him as a 462 that he became that. Secondly is the Raven A2, built in 1922, which is the closest match visually, practically identical save for the valve gear and cab windows. And lastly is the Grizzly A1, also built in 1922, which realistically is the most probable, especially due to the original history Henry had. The main difference is the steam pipes and cab windows. All are good choices save for the H2. Now let's get to the juicy parts of this video. Now, Percy's original history is described as having obscure antecedents, and was found to be a hodgepodge build, having different pieces from Hunslet of Leeds and other builders, though he was originally believed, that's very important, believed to have been built by Avonside of Bristol. Now, while we don't have a build date for him, we know there is a specific time period he arrived on Sodor. Keywords, time, period. The iOS book states he became the station pilot at Tismouth in 1949, so we can assume he became the station pilot. He arrived on Sodor the same year, judging by the stories. But Henry is portrayed as having his old shape in troublesome engines, which, if we're going by the iOS book, is meant to take place in 1949. But Henry only got his new shape and was rebuilt in 1935. In fact, the story The Flying Kipper isn't even in Troublesome Engines, it is in the next book, which takes place after Troublesome Engines. However though, Christopher Audrey has stated Percy came to Sodor before 1935. And we know Troublesome Engines took place in 1926 after the first two stories of the previous book, Tank Engine Thomas again. So then we can judge that between 1926 and 1935 or 1934, as we see Percy in the background of Cole, which takes place in 1934, is when Percy arrives. So with that out of the way, let's get to the details. Percy is an 040 shuttle tank locomotive. He has a water cap dome and a little platform for his whistle and safety valve. He has sandboxes and toolboxes with a bunker and a T-shaped cab. So then let's get to the possible engines. Now, the engine 1340 from the Great Western Railway, known as Trojan, built in 1897, is often cited as the basis of Percy, and I can see why. He's an Avonside engine which we've previously established Percy was believed to have been an Avonside build. Keyword believed, but was found to have Hunslet parts and also other builds and also parts from other builders. Either way, I can see why Trojan is proposed as a basis for Percy. The sandboxes are there, the massive saddle tank, dome and water cap. However, the cab shape is wrong and it is open at the back. It lacks a bunker and the smoke box is also quite fat, squarish at the bottom and sits quite low. Next is the Hudswell Clark Oval Row ST number 1435, built in 1922. I was shocked at how much this engine looks like Percy when I first found it. The saddle tank isn't massive and the cab isn't the right shape, but the cab is enclosed. It has toolboxes, the smoke box is the right shape and height, and it has a dome and water cap. And I forgot to mention, but the engine I'm talking about in specific here is Nelly. The Caledonian Railway 264 and 611 classes, built in 1885, are similar. There is a large saddle tank, dome and water cap, however it has front coal bunkers, a low sitting smoke box with the wrong shape. No toolbox is the wrong cab shape and is generally just long. The Hudswell Clark number 750 Waleswood, built in 1906, is very similar to Percy. It has the right cab shape, the smoke box is right, the dome is the right shape and the water cap is close, but it lacks a coal bunker at the back and has no toolboxes. Now this is tough as they all look very similar to Percy. However, I am going to say either Nelly, which is the Hudswell Clark Oval Row ST 1435, or Waleswood, who we just covered was the Hudswell Clark number 750. Nelly blew me away when I first saw her, at just how similar she looks to Henry, and not Henry, Percy. And Waleswood is very similar in his own right. So then to our final engine. This is our mystery engine. Now, Lady is actually a freelance design, but that doesn't mean we can't try and find similar engines, and this was actually quite hard to try and find bases for her, but I did have a few in mind. Now the details are that she is small, has side tanks, an open cab, and is an oval row. Now Lady has a lot of extravagant shapes on her, so we will need to simplify, otherwise we will get to nitpicking and we won't find a basis. We also don't have a build date on Lady, so we can have free reign on when she is built. Let's begin. The LSWR C14 and S14 classes, built in 1906, are similar to begin with, but they have valve gear, aren't open cabs, and have a coal bunker that sticks out. The smoke box is also wrong. The GWR 101 class, built in 1902, later rebuilt to be a coal burner in 1905, is very close again. Open cab, and however the side tanks are quite large. It has sandboxes and the engine is quite long, and only one of them was ever built. Lastly, we have Class B, who most of you would know from the engine Captain Baxter, built in 1877. It has been one of those, and he has been one of those engines pointed out to be similar looking to Lady. While the cab shape is wrong, it is open, it has short side tanks and is generally just small, but it has sandboxes, and the cab windows are just too much of a stretch from Lady's. So my verdict, either the GWR 101 or the Class B. And so that concludes this video, featuring significant characters. I'm unsure who I'll cover next. Will I cover the Not Thomas and Not Edward? Perhaps. Or maybe more Mid-Sodor engines. We'll see. I am thinking I'll do more Mid-Sodor. But anyway, thank you all for watching, and goodbye. How similar she looks to Henry, and not Henry, Percy.